All models are wrong, but some models are useful. Hi, I'm Dr. Joseph Alexander Brown. So I'm out tonight for a walk, and that quote by George Box is in my head. All models are wrong, some models are useful. What is a model? When we talk about modeling something, when we talk about building something, I think everybody maybe originally thinks of, well, model ships, model planes, those types of things. But inside of artificial intelligence and just in computer scientists and statistics in general, we're always trying to create some sort of model of the universe, some sort of idea of how it works, whether this is mathematical, whether this is an algorithm that represents something. And I think going back to the idea of ships and planes and building models is actually quite helpful. Because when we think about that, and we build, say, a model tank, and we put the sprues and we click off the parts, we can kind of see how it all goes together. We understand how it kind of, pieces. And it's not a great resolution, right? It's maybe 1/72nd scale. It's a smaller version of it, but it gives us a greater understanding than what we had about it beforehand. There's one thing that I like to say, and that is, if you want to model something completely 100% accurately, you need that thing. If you want a model of a cat and how a cat will behave, the best model of a cat is a cat. But we can't do that, either due to ethical concerns, either due to we don't have enough time to allow the thing to happen, or we don't have a great enough understanding. And this is where the first piece of that quote comes in. All models are wrong. All models will not be 100% equal to what's happening inside of reality. There'll be some sort of differences between them. If we talk about those scale models, they're to scale. The interiors aren't completed, things aren't happening inside of them that would happen in the real thing. However, they're useful. They stand as representations. You can see bits of it. You can understand how the real object would work. So, that is the second bit. They're useful, and they allow us to see things that we normally wouldn't be able to see. There's a big issue with models. Models have to have predictive ability. That is, we have to have some idea of what's going on in the future. They have to be explanatory and show what has happened in the past and how that happened. And the piece that I think a lot of people forget about is they have to be timely. We have to be able to kind of get an idea of what's happening. And even if we kind of give up some of that resolution, some of that predictive ability, and even if we give up some of that explanatory ability, even if we get it wrong sometimes, the fact that it's timely is what we're trading off for that. Imagine that I was able to create a machine, and this machine was able to tell you 100% of the time the weather. You'd say, well, that's pretty great, right? Farmers could know when to put crops in the fields. You could know what you were going to wear out today. Maybe even know exactly what time it's going to rain. But what if I told you that that prediction will happen in 2 days' time? That the prediction for tomorrow takes 2 days to figure out? You would say that's a pretty useless machine, wouldn't you now? Because you could just look outside. But what if I could tell you that weathermen are actually far more accurate than we give them credit for? They are pretty accurate. Do they get it wrong? Yeah. And what happens when they get it wrong? We say, oh, well, they were terrible. But we don't think about all the days that they got the weather relatively correct. We're pretty accurate. Right now, scientists have been modeling the whole epidemic around the world. They've been saying, if we do these certain actions, these things will happen. Are we going to get it wrong? Are we going to be off by a few orders of magnitude in some places? Are we going to not take into account certain things inside of the population? Of course. But I'll tell you, right now we're going through second wave, which they said was going to happen. And it bothers me because we knew this was going to happen. Model after model after model said this was going to happen. But because we sometimes get it wrong, we forget about we can use them to provide useful information. So, I know, I hate it when it's doom and gloom too. But even when the model's wrong, sometimes it's a little bit useful. Good night, everybody.